Hello and welcome to another Purveyor of Light Photoshop quick tip. Today we're just going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to composite two images together with no general purpose, but other than some creativity practice. I find these are fun. I do these things regularly on my own to keep a tone and what's important in a composite. And so I thought today would be a perfect example of doing a simple composite. Okay, so for my composite today, I have chosen two images. I have the road here and the hills, and pretty boring shot, not a lot of interest. So I said this would be perfect for a composite. And then I have the second image, which is a lady here in the lake. And I says, okay, these two have potential of becoming a composite. I immediately envision the woman here in the water. Wouldn't it be cool if we had her coming out of the road? It's a simple technique, but it's a lot of fun to do. So while we're all here in lockdown quarantine, might as well pass the time doing something creative. All right, so let's just jump in. So the first thing I'm going to do is start on the background image. There's not much detail. It's pretty faded. It's an ugly gray day. Not a lot of detail in it. But let's see what we can do here. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to convert it to a smart object. This way I can use camera raw non-destructively. And I'm going to go up to filter and then camera raw. Alright, so now with camera raw, I have my panels and I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, I can bring back the highlights. I'm going to leave the shadows in. And let's do a curve. Let's do a standard S curve. Increase the contrast just slightly. There we are. A little before and after. Before and after. So I've increased the contrast slightly in the image. I wanted to darken the pavement. So that looks good. Okay, and that's about all I'm going to do here because, again, the picture really is not that great on its own. But for compositing, it's got potential. So I'll hit OK. Okay, so now I have my before and after. Okay, and I can turn the filter off and you can see all I did is realistically darken and increase the contrast. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the picture with the swimmer in the water, and for this composite I'm really only seeing her coming out of the road. Okay, so I'm not going to need the whole picture, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate her in a portion of the water from this picture, and then I'm going to go ahead and put it in the other image. Now this one here is pretty well defined. Her hair wet and everything makes it nice and easy to do a selection. So I'm going to just pick any selection tool, and then I'm going to select subject and let Photoshop do its thing. And Photoshop has isolated what it thought was in focus. That's exactly what the subject select is it only picks the pixels that are in focus, and anything else it assumes is the background. So a little bit extra here, but that'll work for me. I'll select and mask, and let's see here, maybe I'm going to smooth the edges a few pixels maybe. Okay, check that out. That looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to take the output and I'm going to put it to a new layer with a layer mask. And there we are. We have the new layer. And we're isolated with a transparent. So now I'm going to take this layer and I'm going to move it and drop it into our street scene. And I'm just going to pick it up and drop it in. Okay. And as we can see, we're going to have to scale her down a little bit So I'm going to hit Command T and then Control 0, and that's the way I can see the entire picture. And I'm just going to scale it up and down till I feel the proportions are correct. And I'd say we still need a way to go to make it believable. We don't want her to be the let's see how that looks. That's still a little bit big. So Command and Control T, and I'm thinking that's pretty good right there. Okay, so now we have our two images, and it's not very believable, and it's not meant to be at this point. One of the key things when you're doing compositing, okay, it's not about just putting images together and then, you know, as long as the selection is sharp, everything comes together. It doesn't work that way in compositing. With compositing, the trick is look at the light, okay? If we look at her and we see, what do we see? We see a harsh light on her side of the face here coming from this direction, and so we have to keep that in mind. We also look at the water here, and it's got a bluish greenish tint, and on the black tar pavement, we're not looking very realistic. So when you're doing compositing, you're looking at light, color, and shade, and that. And what you want to do is you want to make these things all blend together so it becomes believable. All right, so I pointed out the areas. Like I said, we got direct harsh sunlight coming over here, hitting her face. We've got water that's not the right color. And so we need to address these things as we do the composite. All right, so the next thing is I need to make a duplicate of this layer we just did. And I'm going to get Command and Control J. And I'm going to select the lower layer. And I'm going to rename that hard light. And now I'm going to work on the filter, the mask side, and I'm going to paint in black and just do some, actually reverse, sorry, paint in white. And I'm going to bring some water around her. Okay, and that's to make it a little more believable. And we're then going to change this layer to hard light. And you can see here, it makes things fit in nice. All right, so the next thing we need to do is we need to address the hue difference between it. You know, like I said, the water is way too blue on a black tar road. It's just not believable. So we need to make it believable by working with some hue and saturation. So I'm going to take these two layers and holding the Control D down, I'm going to select both of them, and then I'm going to hit a group and put them in the group. Okay, so now those two layers are in the group. And I'm going to put a hue saturation layer. And I'm going to make it a clipping mask so that it just affects the area below this thing. And I'm going to work with the channels now to help the two areas blend. And I'm going to select the master, and I'm going to select cyans, because cyan is definitely in the water. And I'm looking at the water, and I'm watching how I can make it blend in. And you can see right there, all right, see the blue? And you see now it's matching in more with the tar and as well as the blues. Okay, so that looks pretty good. All right, so now we have that, and that's not looking too bad. A little more believable in the water. I'm looking at the hard light area, and I want to just soften it up a little bit, blend it in a little bit better. I didn't like how the harsh lines were, so I'm trying to remove the harsh lines. Do the same thing on this one. I'm trying to remove the harsh lines because I want it to be a nice blend. Okay, that's not too bad. All right, so now we've addressed the hue saturation colors. We then have to address the other areas and the blending of the two pictures together. The color tones don't work. They don't match. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a color lookup table. And a color lookup table will help redefine the pictures in the entire image. So if I go up to color lookup, and again, if you've never used this before, this is by default built into Photoshop, nothing extra to build or buy. And you can go through the different lookup tables, and you can see how it affects the image. And you can pick what you like, and you can turn them on or turn them off. I happen to know that I'm probably going to go with the teal orange, kind of like a movie light. You can see how much it changes the color images completely. Okay, and now I'm going to take this layer where the lookup is, and I'm going to back off the opacity. All right. I don't want so much that it affects it, but I just want enough to make the influence. Now you can see how, with the lookup table in place, on how much everything is blending together much better. Okay? And what I'm doing while I'm working is I'm constantly looking at the image, and I may go back to areas and layers and do some fine adjustments until I'm happy with the blending. But anyhow, we're going to go ahead and move forward. Now we have a color lookup table in place. Okay? And now I'm going to select a new layer, and I'm going to fill that layer with black. Okay, so edit, fill, and I'm going to fill it with black. Okay, and this is going to allow us to put some solar light in. Okay, because we have that very harsh light hitting her face that I told you about. Well, here we want to emphasize where that light source is coming from. And so on the black layer, I'm going to go to filter, render, and then lens flare. And I'm going to select the different lens flares, see which ones I like. I'm going to pick 105, I think. Put it right in the middle and hit OK. And a little bit harsh. You can see the defined rings. I'm going to blur this a little bit. So I don't like rings in it, so I want to blur it a little bit. And that looks not too bad. Okay. And so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the mode of screen. All right. And then I'm going to use my move tool, and I'm just going to simply move the light source okay, to where I feel it's believable. Okay, and you know the light hitting her face, and I can also then remove the intensity or so forth. And I'm not liking it. I'm just not liking it at all. So I'm going to trash that layer, and I'm going to do another new layer, and I'm going to fill it with black again. So we're just repeating the steps that I did before. I just didn't like the outcome that I had with the lens flare blur. So I'm just going to do it again, and filter, render, and lens flare, and pop that. Okay, I'm liking that a little bit more. And again, change the thing to screen. Okay, I'm liking that better. And now I'm just going to move the light source. Okay, that's not bad. And I think that's a pretty good blend. I think that's pretty good. I'm not seeing anything glaring out on me. The lens light is now in the direction hitting the face, and I think it looks really good. So I could turn around and see if I wanted to do another lookup table, and see if I want to blend the final features together. Okay, I'm just putting in another lookup table, the blues drop. And I'm going to change the opacity down just a little bit and turn it on and off again. And there we are. Yeah, I think we have a winner here. So there we have successfully composited images together, and the thought process is the same no matter what you're doing. Okay, and that's the whole purpose of this tutorial, is not to this is how you do. It's what you think about when you're compositing images. You care about color, hue, saturation, luminance, light direction is a big one. Okay, so if I put the light source on the right side, all right, if I take this thing here and I move it over here, it's not believable. It doesn't look right. And so that's the thing you think about when you're doing composites. So, okay. So, I think we're done. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found it useful at least. And I encourage you to, take some images of your own and do some composites. And the more you do, the better you get at it. And remember, light direction, hue, saturation, and color blending. Okay? All right. Until next week, you guys take care.